When the visuals of the protests in Nepal started flooding the social media and the media houses across the world, one thing became very, very clear. The fact is, what are the youth capable of? A lot of us with experience and expertise always presume or assume that the young are not involved with day to day politics. We presume that the Gen Z, as we call them, are not connected to the ground realities and are living in this social media world. But one look at the social media videos that were made by the Gen Z in Nepal is an eye opener as to how grounded they were to the realities of Nepal. It was videos like these that went on viral mode and triggered thoughts, debates, protests against the corruption that is there in the Nepali society and the political class. It was a voice against the politicians that manifested into the kind of agitation that we've been seeing in the last 48 hours, which is an eye opener, not just for the politicians in the world, but also in the region. We have seen similar protests in the last couple of years in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and now Nepal. We had also seen a similar agitation in 2012 in India when India Against Corruption was born. While the agitations by themselves have triggered debates and thought processes, but over a period they did fizzle out in many of the countries, including India. It did give us a star like Arvind Kejriwal, who was born out of India Against Corruption, but unfortunately, what happened to him or what happened to the movement is something which is a different story altogether. Even in the case of Nepal, there is a young boy who went viral with a speech targeting the politicians and talking about corruption.
राष्ट्रमा राष्ट्रघातीहरूले सङ्कट ल्याएका छन् तब तब हामी जस्ता युवाहरूको जन्म हुन्छ
Voices like this, which manifested and multiplied and echoed across the state in the last 48 hours when we saw violent protests where politicians were chased, the government was asked to step down, and several politicians fled the country. Something akin to what we saw in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. While the process itself may not be justified or can be justified, but the angst of the people of Nepal was similar to what we saw in Sri Lanka and in Bangladesh. Their anger was against corrupt politicians, and that is what they kept targeting and are targeting still. Unfortunately, even the parliament has been burnt down, but that's not the solution. These kind of revolutions are supposed to evolve into a change. The demands of the youth of Nepal are not very big. They are only asking for the basic essentials that one leads to need a normal life. It's a basic employment, shelter, and also the kind of health security system that they need in the Hill Kingdom. The interesting fact is, Nepal, which was a monarchy, the monarchy was overthrown for a simple reason that the lifestyles of the monarchy and the people of Nepal was very different. And the democracy was restored with the hope that it would be able to improve the lives of people of Nepal. But unfortunately, even after the bloody revolution where the monarchy was removed, we are seeing a yet another revolution where the elected representatives are being targeted and chased for what they're doing or living like monarchs. This raises serious questions as to what is the way ahead and why in India, We need to be worried about these kind of developments. There was a hostile attack on the Indian media, including a friend and colleague, Raghavan from Bangalore, was targeted. Why this anger against India is a big question. Why do the people of Nepal feel that the Indian media misrepresented the agitation itself by calling it a Gen Z against social media ban? Well, that's a different debate altogether because the Indian media does not enjoy the kind of credibility that it should to be able to become a broadcaster of the region. But the political developments in Nepal are certainly an alarm bell for India itself because, given the porous borders that we share with Nepal, this could be something that could trigger further agitations or could be something where our international relationships could come under a scanner. The growing mistrust between the governments of Nepal and the government of India is something that needs to be addressed, and India, as the big brother of the region, needs to have a good rapport with all these countries in the neighborhood, which unfortunately we have not seen happen in the last couple of years. Nobody knows what's the road ahead for Nepal and where this agitation will lead up to. Whether we'll see a new generation of leaders who will be born out of this agitation, who will take command of the country and be able to shape its future. May we fulfill the desires of the young generation, which is looking for a growth in tourism, employment, because tourism is the biggest employment generator in the Hill Kingdom. But how will it move from here? Nobody has an idea or a clue as to where this leadership is going to come from and who are behind this agitation. Because revolutions are never a solution, it's evolutions which give fresh leaderships. But that's the internal matter of Nepal, and we can only watch it closely from here. But for those who give up on the young generation and think that they are not grooved into the social system, they're not grooved into the problems of the societies, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and now Nepal are a very clear eye opener to the fact that the youth of these regions, these countries, are as involved with the concerns that the elders have in their societies. It could also trigger fresh debates in India as to how the youth energy should be channelized to be able to make it powerful enough for the country to become stronger. Well, an agitation of this scale may not be possible in India, but certainly the kind of questions that are being raised as to what could be in case the youth in India faces huge unemployment crisis come onto the streets. The kind of developments that we're seeing in Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka are an eye-opener. Many of us have rejected the youth power and not taken it seriously now need to understand that it's the youth of the country who can shape its future. And that's where we need to now focus as to how to involve the Gen Z or involve the young generation to be able to contribute to the political system in a bigger way. It's an eye opener for all of us to understand that the aspirations of the youth are what need to be addressed on a bigger platform, be it unemployment or be it better education systems. And that's where the politicians need to focus on. Vijay Grover, Bangalore.